Hello, chess friends, and welcome to Jozarov chess channel, and welcome to the round 58 of the TCEC superfinal season 14 between the two top engines, Leela C0 and Stockfish. So before this round, Leela managed to win two games and was 2 points in front of the Stockfish. So it was really time for Stockfish to improve the game. Stockfish was really under pressure. If an engine, of course, can be under pressure, but it was really time for Stockfish to win at least one game because we had now, I think, at least 20 consecutive games that Stockfish didn't manage to win a game against Leela, and it's really uh, really positional battle, this game that I wanted to show you today, because in the games that Stockfish won against Leela, if you have maybe noticed, it was always a tactical battle of this deep calculations of particular lines. Today we had a really nice positional game by Stockfish with the so-called Kramer variation against the King's Indian, and I was really excited when I saw that Leela responded with this King's Indian defense, because this King's Indian, I think, can never be boring. And let's see now Stockfish brilliancy in this Kramer variation. So this forced knight on f6, c4, g6, knight on c3, bishop on g7, and now e4, the standard King's Indian setup, d6, and now we'll see this Kramer variation, knight from g to e2. So after castling, knight on g3, and now knight from b to d7. And okay, after bishop on e2, we have h5, which really blocks out a little bit the queen side, because you see, with this knight on g3, White has the possibility to push the pawn on h4 and then immediately on h5, because this knight on g3 supports the h5, and if you're familiar with the King's Indian as White, one of the most common moves is the move knight on f3. But the knight on f3 really cuts out this diagonal here, this very important diagonal, and then in some occasions it's hard for you to develop the bishop on e3, because it can be a little bit kicked away with moves as knight on g4. That's not now possible because we have the knight on g3, it's not on f3, and we have the perfect battery here on this very important diagonal. The other thing is that after this bishop on e3 and e5, and after d5, here, of course, Leela responds with a5, which is an important move in order to bring maybe the knight on c5 and create this so-called outpost on a very important square, and then maybe even push further the pawn on a4 and creating sort of a blocking system on the queen side, because in the most common lines of the King's Indian, White will try a3 b4 ideas, because you see the coordination of the pawns is really showing the attack. It means that White will, in some occasions, of course, create the attack on the queen side. But with this knight on g3, White has really flexibility to play on both sides, because we have still a flexible pawn structure with f3, g4, and h4 possibilities. Still, maybe here a3, b4, c5 ideas. So, still very, very nice flexibility in the game, because that's always a problem while playing the King's Indian, because White has already the front pawn structure in the center. It's already also White has created the space advantage on the fifth rank. So White has always this slightly advantage of this space advantage, and of course can go flexible into the game. So bishop on g5, this is now an important move to slow down a potential maybe knight on h7 and f5 idea, which is the main idea in the King's Indian, this so-called orthodox setup with f5, and then after that maybe f4, f3 ideas, just to get some breakthroughs here on the king side, if of course White castles king side. But here after rook on e8, we have a3. This is now again the preparation to play maybe the move b4 and just transpose the attack on the queen side. So here king on h7 was played. Maybe a better move here for Leela would have been the knight on f8 idea, and then after that put put the knight on h7. So if maybe queen on c2 follows, then we have possibility maybe to kick away the bishop. After bishop on e3, you have maybe here knight on g4, because after maybe bishop takes on g4, you can take h takes g4, and now again play on this very important f5 setup, because if you take maybe the f5 pawn, then black will have probably possibilities to put the pawn on e4 and liberate this diagonal for the dark square bishop. So I think with this setup, Leela would have better flexibility in her game. With this king on h7, Leela tried to compete here on the h file, and in long terms you will see that this will be a problem, because here h4 was played, but again with possibilities to play f3 g4, and that's the flexibility of this King's Indian setup, of this Kramer variation, because you see white has really a nice flexible game. We can play on both sides, as I said many times so far, but I want you really to realize, because here after rook on h8, after the h file opens, you see it's hard then for black to connect the rooks, because you have to get away with your king from the h file, and the problem is that you don't have a rook connection then, and the rook connection is really one of the basic principles in chess, because you want to have the rooks connected. With this king on g8 idea, they of course will not be connected, and knight on a4, it prevents this very important knight on c5 outpost. Here queen on f8 was played, and now bishop on d3. Also a very important move, because now this bishop is indirectly attacking the king. So if some pawn movements happen here with f5, you see that this king on h7 will be really endangered. So here b6. This is now preparation to put the knight on c5 anyway, because we didn't want to have this double pawn situation, because black would be forced then to recapture with the d pawn, and then white would have always have the possibility with this mobile pawn to gain some space with d6. So that's why b6, and now you see Stockfish plays knight on c3. Very nice positional move, because now we don't mind even that and the knight comes here on c5, because we have fixed the e4 pawn very well. But with this b6 move, now black didn't lose this flexibility in the game on the queen side, because you see with this before this b6 we had maybe possibilities to play c6, and then after that b takes c6 and try a pawn breakthrough with d5. With this b6 move, you lost really the flexibility on the queen side, and basically the pawn structure is really now static here. It's really hard to push the pawns. If you try of course c6, white can simply take. b5 is not possible anyway. The only move that you can play is maybe the a4, but again you don't have support with your pawns to get a pawn breakthrough on b4. So as I said, too static now on the queen side. The game has now transposed only on the queen side, because white has still the flexibility with f3 and g4, and try a pawn breakthrough and open somehow maybe the h file, which will be the main strategical idea here for Stockfish in this game. And you'll see the problems of this rook connection and the continuation of the game. Here after bishop on h6, we have bishop on c2, which is now after knight on c5 a sort of prophylactic move, because we are not allowing the knight to jump maybe here on b3 or on this very annoying square d3. So knight on e8 was played, knight on f1, we have bishop takes on g5, h takes g5, and you see now the problems. Now the main idea is to push the g4, because if of course you cannot just pass through here with the h4. So that's why knight on c5 was played in order to liberate this bishop, because the bishop is controlling the g4. Now queen on d2 was played, and now f6. And okay, this is now the main idea, as I said in the King's Indian, to get at least somehow this f file open. But you'll see here after f3 and f takes g5, we have queen takes on g5, and now black is really a weakened pawn structure around the king. G4 possibility still present. Many now tactical ideas around the white's king. As you can see, I hope you realize that again we have here on the queen side a two static position. Now white can even castle queen side and in a couple of moves connect the rooks, which and the thing is that black cannot connect the rooks in this game, as I said, which is a main problem in the continuation. Bishop on d7, we have queen on d2, now the king on g8, the king gets out of this very annoying h file, and now queenside castle. Queen on e7 was played, and now knight on e3. Again, you see a very nice reposition of the knight with the preparation maybe to play the move g4. Knight on g7, we have knight on e2. Again, a very nice centralization of the knight. The white is simply removing his pieces on the king side, because now the attack will be, of course, on the king side. On the queen side, as I said, the attacks are not possible anymore. a4, okay, now the queen side is really fixed, no pawn movement is possible here. b4 is not possible, but c6 and b5 are also not so good. We have g3, and now you see white has also the flexibility to play maybe the move f4. So h4 was played, now g4, and this is also a very good move. Okay, you can take maybe the h pawn, but after trades of rooks here, that's Leela's goal, of course, because the rook connection is not possible here. Leela tried at least to trade off some rooks and then maybe put the rook here on f8, and then after that have a castle position after the trades of the rooks on the h file. So here, of course, Stockfish is not interested in this and simply played g4. And you see, this is now the main weakness here in black's position, this very weak h4 pawn, because in a couple moves it will be attacked with this other rook, with this knights, and it's basically unprotectable. Because if you try g5 in order to support and block also the king side, then you get knight on g1. After queen on f6, we can simply play a knight on f5. After knight takes on f5, g takes on f5, maybe king on f7 can be played, but now knight on h3 attacking the g5, and now after rook on g8 we have rook on g1, and it will be really hard for black to defend this g5 pawn. If you lose this pawn, you lose the game, because this knight, although it has a really nice outpost, but it doesn't attack anything. If you jump simply on b3, the bishop can capture here on b3, and nothing special here around white's king. So after g4, rook on f8 was played. Now rook on rook on f1, knight on e8, and now rook on f2. We have knight on f6, rook on h2, knight on h7, and now rook takes on h4. Okay, now black can take the pawn here on f3, but you see black lost the connection with the rooks. Now white has the very nice battery on the h file, and this knight on h7 is really paralyzed. It cannot move anywhere because you'll simply lose the rook. So knight on g1 attacking the rook, rook on f7 was played. Now rook on h3, queen on f6. And here maybe a better move for Leela would have been the king on f8 instead of this queen on f6. Here maybe black could have escaped with this king here, maybe through the squares, and tried even here to put the king on b8, because as I said, on the queen side we don't have the possibility to move some pawns, and with this perfect blockade system here with bishop and the knight on c5 and the pawn on a4, the position on the queen side would be really blocked out, and the king would be then secured on the queen side. But still, here of course white is much better because we still having this very nice battery on the h file, and this knight will be paralyzed till the end of the game. So here after queen on f6 we have knight on e2, again a very nice reposition of the piece. We have king on f8. Now black is trying to escape with the king, maybe here on e8 to d8 and similar ideas, but now queen on d1 was played, queen on g5, and now a very strong positional move by Stockfish, and it's really one of the best positional moves that I've seen so far in the series. It's the king on d2. You see, so far we want to stay with our king, with our knight on e3, maybe bring the queen also on the h file, support this battery on the h file, but somehow place maybe the knight here on c3, then on d1, and then escape with the king, because it's really important for us to have this knight on e3, which is supporting this very important g4 pawn. So this king on e2, a monster positional move here by Stockfish. King on g7 was played. Now queen on h1, of course, supporting the rooks on the h file. King on g8. You see, Leela doesn't have ideas here anymore in this game. It's really hard to do anything. Basically, what Leela can hope here is for a draw. So knight on c3. We have queen on f4. Now rook on h2 was played, queen on g5, rook on h3, queen on f4, and now knight on d1, queen on g5, and now king on c1. Now you see, now we can finally escape with our king. Rook on e7 was played, king on b1, rook on g7, and now king on a1. And now the king is secured very well, and now we can play freely with these pieces. We have just to reposition them somehow, just improve the position of the pieces. Of course, these two rooks and the queen will simply stay onto this h file, because we are not allowing to get to black to get rid of the pinning situation on the h file. So here after rook on f7 we have rook on h4, bishop on e8, and now rook on h6, bishop on d7, rook on h3, bishop on c8, and now knight on f2. Now the knight comes into the game. We want to place the knight here on d3 and trade it off for this very annoying knight on c5, which is attacking this e4 pawn here. So king on f8, knight on d3, we have knight takes on d3, bishop takes on d3. And okay, let's stop here a little bit. Let's now evaluate the position, because when you're playing maybe complex middle games, you have always to watch what pieces are on good place, what pieces are not on a good place. So the queens and the rook, of course, will stay here. The knight, we can search for improvements of the knight, but basically what we have is the problem with this bishop, because it's blocked out by our own pawns, and in order to get this bishop working, we have maybe to give up even a pawn here. With the move c5, just to liberate this diagonal for the bishop, because the threat is that black will escape with his king through the square e8, and then maybe through the square on d8, and it will be really hard for white then to attack the king, because black has also a very nice pawn structure here around the king. So if the king escapes, that could be really a forced draw. So that's why after rook on g8 here, c5 was played. Very strong move by Stockfish. Now he liberates the bishop. After b takes c5, we have rook takes on h7, queen takes on e3, but now the king takes on h7, rook takes on f7, king takes on f7. Now rook on h7 with a check, rook on g7, but now rook on h3. If you try something like after rook on g7, if you try something like king on e8, well, then you get checkmated, because queen on h4 is the idea. After g5 you will get queen on h5, you're forced to go with your king on d8, and then here after queen on f7, it's the checkmate is unavoidable. So that's why rook on g7 was played, but now of course rook on h3, kicking away the queen. queen on g5 was played, and now bishop on b5, and now the pieces are in perfect shape here by white. All of them are on the best squares. Here you see this bishop on b5 really prevents this king to escape here from on the square e8. So here queen on g4 was played, but now rook on h8. C6. This is now desperate try by Leela to get a draw here, because if you try something like rook on g8, well, then you get, of course, queen on h7. After rook on g7, then you get bishop on e8, and this king would be really deflected from the defense of this rook, and of course this would be a completely losing game for black. So after c6 we have now bishop on c4, very nice move with this discovered attack on the king. So that's why king on e7 was played, but now d takes c6 anyway, and now we have bishop on e6. And now Stockfish finds a winning tactical sequence here. Bishop takes on e6, we have king takes on e6, but now rook on f8, cutting out here this f file. The queen is now really not so good placed here on the board. Rook on f7 was played. Here rook takes on f7, king takes on f7, but now queen on h7, and this is now completely winning game for white, because after king on f6, queen on h6 was played, king on f7 again, but now you can simply push forward, because here after queen on queen takes on e4, well, black's idea is to get a perpetual check, maybe with queen on c4, then maybe queen on f1, queen on c4. So this is Leela's try to get a draw here, but after queen on h7, king on f6, now we have queen on g8. It's really important move. It really is protecting this very important diagonal, and now again with the idea to promote here on c8. So that's why queen on d3, we have c8 with the promotion to queen. King on g5, here we have queen on d8 with the check, king on f4, queen on h4, king on f3, queen on g4, king on e3, and now queen on e1, and here queen on e2 was played, but in this position Stockfish resigned, because of course black is gonna be checkmated here immediately. So I hope you enjoyed this game. I really like this positional game played by Stockfish, and it was really about time that Stockfish managed to win the game. So let's see now what Leela will do against the King's Indian with this Kramer variation by white. I'm really excited, and this game is probably now still going on, and of course. This is not a lost situation here for Stockfish, because you see Stockfish can also go positional and tactical, and will still have a tough battle between the two top engines, and I'm really looking forward what will happen in the continuation of their match game. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this video. Meanwhile, you can watch my other chess games played by computers from the series, and you can also watch my Magnus Carlsen bullet game, in which he played quite a perfection with this in his 1+0 game. And you can also subscribe to my channel. Thank you for watching, guys, and chess is the best, of course.